Simon and the Toy Shop. Simon Teddy Bear was the oldest toy in Mr. Grant's toy shop. He loved living there, and the other toys loved him being there too. They called him the life and soul of the toy shop. The reason why Simon had managed to stay there for so long that no one ever wanted to buy him, and that was because of Simon's special plan. Whenever a likely-looking customer came into the shop, Simon would undo the bow around his neck and make himself look untidy. Next, he would hang his head to one side and squint. If that didn't seem to put the customer off, Simon would stick out his tongue. And if that didn't work, he would fall over on top of the shelf. If a customer tried to pick him up, Simon would punch them with his paw. Simon's plan had always worked very well. No girl or boy wanted a squinting, untidy, bad-tempered teddy bear to cuddle. Why should anyone want to be sold and risk ending up forgotten in some cupboard or chewed to pieces by a pet dog, Simon would often remark to any toy who cared to listen. We're much more comfortable here amongst friends. And when any toy was sold, Simon would always shout, "Bad luck." Now Simon would never admit it to any other toys, but every now and then he did wish that he had someone to love and cuddle him, especially at night. For nights at the toy shop could be long and lonely, and the shelf was very hard. Then one morning, a little girl and her mother came into the toy shop. While the mother talked to Mrs. Grant, the little girl came over and looked at the bears. She glanced at all the other toys, but when she came to Simon, she stopped and stared. Simon scowled and squinted back. Then he stuck out his tongue. But the little girl didn't seem to mind at all, and she picked him up to cuddle him. Simon punched her, but only gentle, because even he had to admit she seemed quite a nice little girl. "Mummy, this is the one I want, please," said the little girl, holding up Simon. The toys all gasped. Surely she didn't want to buy Simon. The little girl's mother looked at Simon and wrinkled up her nose. "He's not a very handsome bear," she said. "Are you sure he's the one you want, Sarah?" "Oh, that old rogue," laughed Mrs. Grant when Sarah's mother asked for Simon. "You can have him for half price." "Bad luck, Simon," cried the toys as he was carried, still scowling and squinting, out of the shop. They all felt very sad. The shop wouldn't be the same without him. "Half price indeed," muttered Simon as Sarah got into the car with him. When they arrived at Simon's new home, Sarah dressed him in a smart green jacket and took him out for a long ride on her bicycle. Simon found that he was enjoying himself so much that he had quite forgotten to scowl and squint. He liked being cuddled too. In fact, he settled down in his new home surprisingly quickly. But he still missed all his friends in the toy shop. One day he overheard Sarah's mother talking to her. "I start work at Mrs. Grant's toy shop tomorrow," she said. "You can come too if you like. Mrs. Grant said you could." Simon's ears pricked up. "And you must come too, Simon," said Sarah to him. "Then you'll be able to say hello to your friends." "And that's why we got you for half price," she added, "because Mummy is going to work for Mrs. Grant." How thrilled the toys were to see Simon again, and how he had changed in the short time he'd been away. There wasn't a scowl or a squint to be seen. Simon was delighted to be back to being the life and soul of the toy shop. But he was happy to have a proper home to go to at night, with a warm bed and a friendly arm around him. "It's what known as having the best of both worlds," said Simon happily to any toy that would care to listen.